For years, governments have been telling us that healthier lifestyles with good food and some exercise will help us live longer. But it seems many people aren't listening. New statistics give a snapshot of the health of the people of England. The UK as a whole has the highest obesity rate in Europe. People in the north of England are on average fatter, smoke more, and have lower life expectancies than those in the south, with men in northern counties dying on average 2 years earlier than their southern equivalents. It's only slightly less gloomy for women in the north. The government is undaunted. Its Health Challenge England is billed as a new approach which will be pushed forward. It will, according to the Public Health Minister, put people in the driving seat to make the changes they need to lead healthier lives. But really, how do you get people to change their behaviour? I'm joined by Anne Diamond, who's had a very public battle with her weight, and by Jane Clark, who's a dietitian and nutritionalist. Anne Diamond, first of all, do you think the message is clear to people about how they can help themselves, or is there confusion about what to do?
No, actually, I think the message is quite clear. I've set up a website called fathappens.com to give people the sort of support and advice that they say they need, and they say they're not getting from GPs, for instance, at the moment. But all of them say, almost to a person, that they're not daft. They know that it's a matter of personal responsibility. They know that it's about making healthy choices. But when you're already 11 or 12 stone overweight, it's not easy, and they do need constructive and proper ways forward. They do need proper medical advice. They need GPs who know what they're doing. And so, yeah, I think the message is getting through, but what isn't coming through is the government's real responsibility to help.
What is the government's responsibility?
Well, I just think that, either we can face up to the fact that this is a huge problem and say, right, it needs government support, or we'll just flail around for 40 years like we did with the smoking debate, and we'll still have an even worse problem in 40 years' time.
Well, the government, I'm sure, would say it's doing a great deal.
No, well, it's not doing that much. It's doing an awful lot of tokenism. I mean, it took Jamie Oliver to even show them the right direction to go in when it comes down to prevention for it happening to another generation. But I say, what about the generation to whom it's already happened? Fat happens to people, nice people, intelligent people. People on fathappens.com are intelligent, thinking people who manage companies, who manage careers, who manage families, who can manage the rest of their lives and for some reason have not been able to manage their weight.
But if they know, by and large, what to do, isn't it their responsibility to go out and do it?
That's the point. You tell somebody who's already 12 stone overweight, oh, you just take this diet sheet and go home and make healthy choices. That's not enough. Yes, it's the right advice, but it's not enough. And I've asked the members of fathappens.com to actually say, what will help? How do we lobby the government? What do we tell them we need? And they're saying things like, what about the network of community centres and church halls all over the country? Isn't there a way we could turn them over to free fitness clubs? What about subsidising fitness clubs and slimming clubs? What about addressing, for instance, the terrible pricing system, which means you go to your local supermarket and it becomes cheaper to buy processed junk than healthy meals? Things like that. But certainly educating the GPs and maybe even the media to stop calling them couch potatoes and help them do something.
Jane Clark, do you think people have the message, and do you agree with Anne Diamond's analysis of a lack of the appropriate help from government?
I think it does take an awful lot of support to help people work, as Anne said, out of the situation that they find themselves in. But there is an awful lot of new legislation that needs to come in. I mean, I was involved with Jamie Oliver on the Whole School Dinners project, and it's not enough. I mean, yes, we're tackling that generation of children by showing them the shocking things like this is the amount of fat that you're putting inside your body, these are the drinks, and this is the sugar that's going inside. But the government needs to be much tougher. For instance, lots of people don't know that low-fat foods, for instance, can have more sugar in them than they do in the normal equivalent. So people are consuming food not realising that actually they might even be consuming more calories, which obviously just aggravates the whole situation.
And when people come to you, Jane Clark, generally, is it on a voluntary basis, or have they been sent to you? I just wonder if there's a difference between those who recognise they need help and perhaps those people who are more reluctant to.
Eddie, I would say the majority of people that come to see me are there because they really want to. And as Anne said, you really need to want to lose weight for it to have any effect, because it's a big thing that you're taking on. We are taught the Food is for emotional comfort, food is for stress relief, food is for boredom, and these things are ingrained from childhood. So if you're going to try and get someone to work forward out of that situation, you do need an awful lot of support, and they do need to be engaged.
And what about using community centres and halls up and down the country to give people the sort of free advice that Anne Diamond is talking about?
I think it's a great idea. Yes, let's do it. And also I think the government needs to be much tougher on children in the schools because, yes, as Anne said, of course, this is the generation that we really worry about now because they're overweight. But there is this next generation of children, and as we showed on the last programme, we do have children that are still not getting wholesome, healthy, reasonable food in the school, and they need to do exercise. The government has been selling off school playing fields, and they don't have enough space to exercise. And the children need to have home economics as an integral part of their curriculum. It's not just good enough to say, well, when they're 11, they can take part in some voluntary home economics classes after school. We need to get it as a real centre of their lives.
Well, see, Jane and I are basically saying the same thing, aren't we? We're saying, okay, personal responsibility is very much what it's about, but you have to help people when they're already overweight, hugely overweight. It isn't just enough to just be told to go and make healthy choices. And that's where the government needs to address this now, because they're only going to make it worse in 40 years' time if we don't actually spend a bit of money now helping people.
And what about, finally, and what about personal choice and those people who say, well, look, I maybe am overweight, but, I'm happy the way I am. I'm happy with my life.
I haven't met one. We've got thousands of members on my website now. It's totally free. It doesn't cost them anything to be there, but they've got a voice. And they're all saying, we want to do something about this. They're beginning to understand that it's not just a question of vanity. It's a question of health. These people, if you're overweight, if you're obese, you are more likely to die early. You're more likely to contract diabetes.
But you're not saying that everyone who's overweight is unhappy.
Yeah, I am, actually. I'm saying that I think the people who are I'm talking about very overweight. I'm talking about obesity. If you are obese, I don't think you're happy. I think you're probably hiding it if you're saying that.
Thank you for that, Anne Diamond and Jane Clark. If you want to get in touch with us, it's pm@bbc.co.uk. We have a website too.